Welcome to the Impactful Engineer Project. I'm Steve Maxey, and with my co-host and brother Jake, we are here to bring you guidance, fresh ideas, and the tools to help you become an impactful engineer.
Welcome to another episode of the Impactful Engineer Podcast. I'm here with my brother Steve and a special guest for an authentic conversation around engineering and personal development. Our goal is to create an environment for career excellence targeted towards engineering professionals. We believe that being open about what we've learned in our own careers will benefit others in their unique journey of engineering. So ultimately, we want people to have fulfilled careers and be inspired to become the best versions of themselves.
In this podcast, we do have a few different types of episodes. Our standard episode format has Jake and I presenting a topic where we introduce the why and the how around this topic and give some tips to get the conversation going and inspire some action. Usually this will be based on something you can deploy in your daily career. Often it includes a mindset shift we invite you to consider moving forward because we know and have experienced the power behind embracing mindset changes.
Our second episode type that we have is a quick solo type episode, usually released on a Wednesday. It's something where we get down to the point real quick. It's something that we share that we believe will help you in your career day to day, but that otherwise wouldn't make a good long form episode. It's typically like a lecture, and you'll get one really good point to take away and start using right away. We call them Wednesday Wisdoms.
And about once a month, and today we will bring on a guest that has expertise in a particular field and share their perspective, mindset, strategies, and actionable tips based around their area of genius. The overall goal being to provide exposure to multiple thought processes and views in areas that will help you succeed. These episodes are a lot of fun and packed with useful and thought-provoking information.
All right, so housekeeping stuff done. Now to the episode. This is going to be great. I will say something real quick, an intro before we turn it over to you, Kirby. The AEC industry is suffering from a lack of leadership training that is effective. I absolutely agree. And that's exactly why I was so drawn to your content and this idea of your book that's going to be coming out soon. I really felt it. I resonated with it a lot. I love the formula, and we'll get into that. So, many, many years that you've been in the AEC industry, right? And you'll get into that, I'm sure. But guys, please welcome Kirby Lee to the show. I know this is going to be impactful. So welcome, Kirby.
Well, I'm grateful for you, Jake and Steve, having me on. We talk about impact, but it's ultimately that's what our role in what we want to do as engineers and leadership is to make impact. I don't think we're here just to just hang out and push a few lines on AutoCAD and then leave for the day and then go play tiddlywinks.
Right.
For the people,
yes.
That's their goal. Good luck. Hope it works out, and may the odds be in your favor. But
That's right.
But yeah, we speak about impact, and so one of the things that I would actually share was just during a little bit about me was I practiced engineering, sitting in what Jake's seat for 18 years, doing all types of MEP design, managing projects, working with clients, and then obviously I got to do a little bit of the owner's rep role, which is completely different world from sitting on the other side of the desk. And then my father and grandfather were HVAC contractors, so I grew up in the business, in the AEC world from the very beginning. So when everyone was out cruising Wendy's and figuring out what they were going to have, what kind of frosty they were going to have, I was out swinging a sheet metal hammer in the field. So I think that my unique background of just being involved with both engineering, construction, owner, and then also having done equipment sales previously, I think that helps provide a unique depth of the AEC industry that very few people are capable of doing.
Yes, so just to clarify, the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. So think about the built environment. Every building you walk into at its basic level, right? This is the industry that we're talking about, just in case someone didn't know what that acronym meant. Um, and I think that, yeah, who better to talk about what you've seen in this industry when, first off, you spent 18 years in my seat, which I'm coming up on 11, maybe soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of experience there. And then a second half of your career, like you're talking about on the other side. I don't think there's anyone more qualified to kind of give us the scoop on what they've seen. I mean, Steve and I have seen a lot, but so we're happy for you to be here with that deep expertise, right?
Yeah, and so one of the things that I really discovered, and it was ultimately like I look back of like what caused my exit from engineering, and I sit there and I still even look back because I mean there was lots of times and periods where I didn't feel like fulfilled and I wasn't sure why I was doing it, and but the thing was I knew that I wanted to be in the field, but that wasn't enough because I guess interestingly enough we could say, well, if that was enough, I'd still be doing it, right? But it wasn't.
That's right.
So yeah. So ultimately, what I realized looking back was there was a simple lack of inner leadership within, that drives purpose behind why you do what you do. And so, what's interesting looking back at that is that successful leadership in our industry, which is very rare as it is, because most people aren't trained in that topic. I mean, Jake, how much leadership training have you ever been given? No, doing anything. I mean, in your role.
Absolute zero.
Yeah, zero.
Absolute
Yeah,
zero. I've done it all myself.
You didn't. So, I mean, imagine like what it would have been like if someone had actually given you formal training about it with someone that was in your field, knew what you were doing, and gives you a step-by-step process of how to develop it from the inside out. Imagine what
as an engineer, that would have been fantastic. My engineering brain.
Yeah, I mean, and Steve, I mean, chime in too. I mean, think about like, how much leadership training did you receive during your time so far doing what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, it up until about 2.5 years ago, it was an absolute zero. I just happened to join a company that does believe in leadership training, and so recently I have gone through formal workplace leadership training, which has been fantastic. But yeah, the vast majority of careers that I've or positions that I've been through, absolutely zero.
Yeah, and so that's a symptom of our industry, and it's actually something that ties back to like workforce statistics. Gallup did a study of that and actually discovered that 75% of the workforce has no purpose behind why they're even doing what they're doing. 75%. That means only 25% of the people in our workforce probably, and I would assume the AEC industry probably breaks down very similarly. I
could imagine
only
if 20, I asked...
one, like think about all the people in your office, Jake. Like only 1/4 of these people know why they're even doing it.
That's it.
Yeah, and how can you expect that maximum performance out of people who don't know the why of what they're doing?
Exactly. And so that's where like what I realized was like, and this was a sheer accident. Like I basically kind of left engineering, felt broken. I knew that something was wrong inside of me and I didn't know what it was. And I couldn't tell you what it was, back then, but it was ultimately look back and it was lack of inner leadership and outer and being able to use the inner leadership to build outer leadership. And so that's where like this formula that is in my new book that's coming out called The Lion Attitude, which is about teaching leadership in that version of impact in a mathematical form that we as ordinary humans can look at. It's like, well, okay, here's the math. I need to follow the math. And we as technical professionals, we're very process oriented. We follow very specific trains of thought. We are not, we don't do things randomly for fun. That's our industry is built that way, and that comes across all spectrums. And if you are a sales rep, you do this. If you are an architect, you do this. If you're a contractor, you do this. And if you're an engineer, you do this. Our industry is different. You can't just walk into our industry, and I'm sure both of you would say this from your experience. You don't get to just, hey, I run the florist shop and I'm bored today and I'm hanging out on my yacht. I want to buy an engineering company and run one. That sounds like a great idea. You have to be a licensed professional in our industry to actually be a company owner. You can't just walk in. That's not something you get to do when you're bored on your yacht and you slice the golf ball out in your ocean.
Right. That's right. There's a lot that goes into getting where you're going to go in this industry.
And one of the things I would also say, and I'm sure you guys would agree, is like there's a lot of hands-on experience that you're required to have before you become a licensed person or industry. You don't just get to wake up and say, well, time to stamp the drawings and here we go. What could go wrong?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So the point being, there's a lot of processes and there's a lot of steps that go into it, right? It's very, very, it's intensive.
And so leadership is kind of like that too for us. It's like we're very process oriented. And so we want to have a step-by-step process. What does it look like? How, oh man, this step didn't go well. Well, why didn't it go well, right? I mean, we're very analytical. We think very logically. I mean, there are some instinctual things that we do, but ultimately, I mean, we're process-oriented people, and that's what makes us different. And that's another thing that, like, within our industry, you wonder why. Well, dang, why can't just random company come and just give me leadership training and it be effective, right? And Steve would probably be able to chime in on this. It's like, okay, well, hey, I became a life coach yesterday, Steve, and I'm coming here to teach you about leadership, to be a to be a leader in your field of in engineering. I don't know what it is, and I've never walked by your products before, but I'm here to show you what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine how effective that is. Look at you guys. Your laughter is telling me, like, we're all sitting there thinking, like, this is the stupidest thing ever. Like, why do we think this would work? There is no chance it would work, but yet we do this.
Hey, my fellow impactful engineers, if there's one thing that you could do to help out this community, it's to keep listening to the podcast, but also if you found value in it, to share it with one person, give us a 5-star review, or even leave a text review. It'll only take a few seconds of your time. Find that person that you think could enjoy some of this or learn from it, and pass on the good word. Now back to the show. Yeah, I see it all the time. Hey, you're new here, right? Okay. Yeah, go run this entire project and let me know how it goes.
Yeah.
Oh,
by the way,
right.
Your billing hours, Jake, are too much. I can't figure out why the job is negative. Oh, yeah, because I just handed you a project that you didn't do anything about.
Why did we run aground here? Well, I don't know. No one was steering. Cool. Yeah, so let's bring it to that formula. Like I'm really excited to go there. Before I do that, what I do want to say is that I'm actually within my company, I'm starting to see some true like glimpses of this leadership starting to make its way in, and I'm very hopeful for that. I'm very like inspired by that. But if we can bring this formula to that, we wouldn't have to wait for wait for this to organically happen.
That's right.
Because I have a feeling that it's people that are natural born leaders or that have that fluency that are bringing it to engineering, not engineering creating and having leadership flourish, right? So that's the point I wanted to make.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and think about it, Steve. You said you got leadership training at your company. Who provided it? Was it somebody that actually knew what you were doing? Was it an outsider that knew nothing about what you were doing?
Yeah, yeah. It was an executive coach that brought in more of the higher level leadership models, and different types of understanding people. Right, so it was very focused on the people side, not so much on the more project leadership type side.
Yeah. So think about it, Steve. Like, how much impact do you think it would have been is if just some general executive coach, which everybody, by the way, calls themselves an executive coach nowadays. So, I mean, think about it, Steve. How much of a difference it would have made if said, Steve, I'm here to teach you a specialized leadership system built just for you. I didn't build this for the dentist down the street. I built this for you. And I've done what you're doing, and this system is just for you.
Yeah. I mean, I think it would be incredibly impactful, right, to have someone bring in custom tailored leadership training for an engineering specific industry. Now, while I think there was a lot of value on a leadership training that we did get, because people are in every industry, and so understanding the people side of the dynamic is incredibly important, and that is often lost on a lot of up and coming leaders that have no guidance in general, right? You do have to understand the people side, but to your point, that's half the equation, right? There's also the more specific, bespoke leadership aspects of engineering itself, and then that is where there's a large deficit.
That's right. And what's interesting, we speak about that is that, and this is where it's mind blowing. So, and this is, I know when we talked initially, it's still mind blowing to hear this, but the Harvard Business Review had actually did measurement studies on leadership effectiveness. And I don't want the people on this podcast to hear this. We spend $200 billion every year on it. $200 billion. That's a lot of money. And they measured the effectiveness in studies and showed that it was only 10%. That all of that's out there is only 10% effective. So that means that we are wasting $180 billion every year on stuff that is not effective, not relevant, doesn't work, not applicable, or is all theory that, like you said, your executive coach, hey, I'm here to teach you my theory. Well, that's great. Well, show me what to actually do with it. And they can't show you. They can't show you because they don't know, because they've never done what you're doing. So no wonder, like that, Steve, that you talk about that cataclysmic gap that's still there. That's why it's only 10% effective. That's more. We're wasting.
Here's what.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So here's what I believe. From my short time on this planet and being a rising leader, in my own right, there's that 10% effectiveness, and I think that shows through from leaders doing the work on themselves before the coach shows up. And the coach will tie some things together for you, and then you're effective with it, and you go, oh, great. I know how to take what you're saying and apply it to my industry. And that's 10% of people, right? Of those leaders that are targeted. So why I believe in the mission that you're on, Kirby, so much is because I think that you bring it and deliver it in a way with that experience that is directly applicable to most people's careers and in the industries that they're in as engineers, right? So that they don't have to then take what you're saying, not that your book or what you're going to teach doesn't cover this, but they don't have to take it from a silo and go, okay, that's how you be a leader. How do I now do that where I sit? Yeah. And how do I do that every day? What's the strategic execution behind this?
That's exactly
right. I think it's going to bridge that gap. So.
Yeah. So that's where we go with it, Jake, is that, you have all this theory that's out there. They say, well, this should work. It works for the floral industry. Well, that's great, but I'm not a florist. and that's another problem with leadership training in our industry, is that we get it from these outsiders that they've never worked in our industry. They don't know. We have a very unusual dynamic that is completely different from the rest of the fields. And then all they can teach to us is theory. They can say, well, the manual told me to say this. I learned this in the manual and I hope it works. Well, that's great. That's about 10% effective. And you, Jake, you're hearing this and you're like, okay, well, how do I apply it? What do I do with this? And so you're fumbling around trying to hope that you can figure out what to do with it. And then lo and behold, it's 10% effective. And then that's the reason why, like, leadership training in our industry we fail at it so much. And put that perspective, 180 billion, that's every year. That's more money than 48 out of the 50 United States. So only Texas and California guys spend more money than we waste every year. on leadership training that doesn't work.
Good job, Steve. All right, so how do we bring it in? What's the let's get into the formula here.
Yeah.
How do we correct this?
Yeah. So what I realized going through my own journey to develop leadership skills was, one, it wasn't taught to me. So the first thing is, like, inner leadership has to be built from within, and you have to want to do that. You can't wake up one day and say, okay, I'm going to learn this and this is great and it'll all work out. Because based on that logic, okay, Jake, you're a great engineer. I've decided to make you a engineering manager now. No problem. Here you go. Have fun with it. Well, man, if Jake doesn't know why he's doing this, then his inner leadership doesn't work, will not be effective. His inner leadership is broken, and therefore leading other people will not work, right? Because you can't lead other people successfully if you don't even know why you're doing it. And so that's where the impact.
Well, I'm doing it because I got a pay raise.
Oh, well, that is good. That is important. I'm glad you, thank you. I'm glad that worked out. So then 6 months later, Jake is struggling, trying to figure out, like, why all of a sudden he thought it was not working the way he thought. And we go back to the logic of, like, just because you're a great player doesn't mean you're a great leader. And if Michael Jordan should have been the greatest owner in the history of sports, right? Unfortunately,
so work on it on your way up, guys.
Yeah, unfortunately, he was not. He was the worst. He's been the worst owner in the history of sports. Great Hall of Fame player.
Oh, really?
Hall of Fame player, but he could not. The Charlotte Hornets and Bobcats were a disaster every single year that he was running the team. So,
oh no.
So that's where we look at it, like, inner leadership has to come first, and that's not taught, and that's where that's what makes the book and the impact system completely different, is because we're working on building those roots to develop those skills. And so the first half of that formula is intention and motivation and purpose. So, like, you can actually look at purpose from a math form in that, inner leadership development. And if you're intentional and you're motivated, you can create purpose. It's not, you don't wake up one day and then hit the lottery ticket and say, well, I found my purpose. Here it is. It's 9, 16, 33, and 26. Here you go.
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
So share your inner leadership, or experiences with that, or do even people, as far as I knew, people in our industry never even thought about it. They just said, okay, I've been promoted, I'll just figure it out.
Well, yeah, and if you say anything about it on the way up, they reject it wholly, is my experience. Yeah, we don't do that. That's floofy shit. All you got to do is manage the project right and manage this and make the money, and then you're good. And it's like they miss everything in between. Back to purpose, it's like you don't just find your purpose one day and be like, all right, this is it. Cool, I'm gonna get behind this. It's a stacking, progressive route, which happens over a period of time through being intentional about what you're going to define as your purpose and trying to find and discover your purpose. It's not just a thing that you decide to do. It's a journey, right? That you do intentionally, right? So what I recommend for most people and what I talk about is just to go into with intention, immerse yourself into what you're doing now, right? To discover the purpose, to discover why you're doing this. Stack skills along the way, right? Because those will show you different avenues that you can step into as soon as you've built the skills, right? So it's not for me, it's an intentional, direct, skills-based accumulation over time that then you're going to tie back into being intentional with yourself and about who you are and what your purpose is from within, and then you'll find that external alignment, and then you can start going for it. That's what I talk about.
Yeah, and so
I don't know what you think, Steve.
Go ahead, Steve. But yeah, you have to be intentional and motivated to find purpose. You don't just wake up and it hits you. It just doesn't.
Yeah, and something I wanted to say is your purpose can change also. A good example is when I first became an engineer, my purpose of being an engineer is because I wanted to design car parts and car stuff. And that was the whole drive for me to become an engineer. And I was like that for the first, 8 or 9 years of my career. That's all I wanted to do was design things. But then I started feeling like I was stuck and I just wasn't as into what I was doing. And it took a while, but I realized that my purpose changed. And my purpose now was to help other engineers be successful in their own careers. And that's why I got into management myself. And now I feel way more energized to do the work that I do. And so it's really important for people not to be like, well, that's been my purpose the whole time, and I just need to figure out why I'm not feeling as fulfilled. And sometimes that does change.
You're correct, and the thing is that your purpose changing, it is okay for your purpose to change. The point is you still need to be following it. You can't just say, well, my purpose has changed, I'm done, I'll just hang out and just no, this isn't going to work.
Yep.
Because then you can look at it, your inner leadership. Remember those three things: intention and motivation and purpose. Look what happens. You can see it now from a technical, like non-emotional ability. Like, look what will happen if your purpose fades because of something changing. You will lose your ability to be intentional and motivated, and you will not have successful inner leadership to be successful, in your next steps of your career. You will not. It will not work, and it will break. Yeah. It's interesting that you can actually now look at it from a very technical perspective and say, well, there's the breakdown. Like there's your problem.
Yeah. Have I been intentional with my career? Absolutely not. Well, okay.
There you go.
There's a breakdown there.
Mm-hmm. There's the breakdown.
I feel full of purpose, but I'm not intentional about anything. Why am I not where I want to be? I know I should be doing these things, and I feel like, yeah, this is what I was made to do, but I'm not getting anywhere. Well, your intention and your motivation might be lacking, or they might be ignored completely.
That's right.
Yeah. And so that's why I like the formula.
Yeah, and so that's what's neat about the book, The Lion Attitude, is that it shows technical professionals how to develop leadership from the inside. And there's two phases of that process. So the first phase is purpose development, and then building your lion pride around you as you're doing that. Because this is named after lions. Because lions are, you think about lions, they know what they're doing every day. They don't say, well, I'm not so sure if I want to hunt. No, they get up and they hunt, and that's it. That's all. They're very intentional and motivated, and they have purpose behind why they're doing what they're doing every single second they wake up. And is there any surprise that a lion is the apex predator of the jungle because it does those things? Right. So that's the first phase of the book. Teaches and shows the process of purpose development, gives you application too. And because remember, we talked about how there's lots of theory behind that process and steps of, well, I hope this works. It works. It should work for the IT field because it works here. Well, no. And that's what makes the book and the system that the impact system different, is that it shows application of what it looks like, why it should work, and what happens if you don't do it. You can see every aspect of it in a technical form and say, well, man, there's the breakdown right there. Look at that. It's so simple. Our industry, like we have construction workers that have like an 8th grade education. Like this is so simple, like a person on a job site can look at it and understand it. They're like, well, there you go. There's the problem. I see it right there. And so that's where that phase, that first phase is that tear down, reinvention, getting yourself to the point where you're ready to lock in to find this purpose, and developing the systems and process in place to do that. So that's the first part. So.
Yeah. And we could go into each, IMPACT. We could get into that and this would be hours. What draws me to the system is that attack or maybe action, mm-hmm. right? And connection.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That I think that's where I live. I think that's very important. And so, of course, is my show. So we're going to highlight that because I want to share it, right? I want to share that with people. The intention, the motivation, the purpose building is very important. It comes first, and you guys we can help you discover that too. But today would be great to get into that action and that connecting.
Absolutely. So then, or briefly, I will touch the second phase. And so the second phase is once you develop that purpose, there's a startup routine that you work every day to keep your purpose strong by being intentional and motivated. And so that's the solidifying of it. Because think about what happens. It's like going to the gym, right? Jake, you go to the gym every day. You live in a great lifestyle. You take care of yourself. Well, you decide to not work out for 3 months. Well, look what happens. Your muscles have atrophy, right? Your body decays a little bit because of that regression in effort, and therefore your intention and motivation becomes weaker because you're not doing those things. And so that's why like the phase 2 takes that step, first building purpose in phase 1, and then phase 2 taking that purpose and then making it stronger and refining it every day. Because if you're working on it every day, it'll stay strong. Just like if you work out every day and you take care of your body every day, and you read something that you need to, that's important for your development every day. If you're doing those things, your purpose will stay strong. You'll never get to that point where it decays, breaks down, or all that stuff. And that puts you in the position so that then you can focus on those outer leadership skills, the stuff that we've talked about, about, oh man, I need to, how do I lead other people? Like, there's lots of people that get thrown into leadership roles and they have no idea what to do. But then with the right purpose, they can figure, well, I know why I'm doing this. Now I need to have the right systems and process to do that. So that's where we're going to talk about the Act and Connect.
Yeah, the Act and Connect. I like that because it is the most recent for me too. So like, the discovery of this in my own career, because the purpose, the intent, the motivation, built a long time ago, right? For me at least. And getting to that next step is something that I've gone through recently, and it's quite the change, right? So
yeah, and so actually, what we really the first things we want to walk through is like, well, what does Act and Connect mean, right? Because remember, you've got the IMP, that's the intention, motivation, and purpose, right? And then there's action and connection, right? And those are the 5 parts of the math of the impact math. So that shows you if you have all 5 of those things, which some of those are inner leadership things, some of those are outer leadership things, right? The goal is developing leadership skills inside and out, because then that creates the T at the end of the math, which is the triumph. And so if you're doing both of those things at the same time, you will develop successful leadership skills and you will make impact, which is, we think about our industry, we all basically boil down to one simple thing that we want to do coming into our industry as AEC professionals, and that is to make an impact. That's our goal. So let's talk about the Act and Connect. I guess we also want to talk about the fun names for the people that what happens when you're not doing those things, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So the idea. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was going to say I like the Attack because I think I heard it called Attack.
It was originally called Attack and Connect.
Yeah, there you go.
But
just
in the
personally, because I like to hit the ground running and attack, so I love those. Like, yes, attack.
Yeah, that's right.
I understand why it should be action.
Yeah, I got lots of feedback from my beta readers. Half of the audience loved it, and the other half was giving me the thumbs down. They were like, "No, that's not going to work."
That's kind of my experience too, overall. Just to clue you guys in, because I was very much attack a lot, and it's not as well received as you'd suppose, for many reasons.
So that's what's interesting, when you think about this, Jake, because like what you can see is there are 2 things that happen when you're working on your leadership skills with other people, and in a very technical form. So if you are only focused on the action component, like you've described, right? Well, there is a name for that type of person out there, and that is the attacker. That is, hey, get the project done, whatever it takes, get the sale, close this deal, get this estimate done, whatever it takes to make this happen. And you think about that. That's the attacker, right? Make it happen, do whatever it takes. And then they realize, they look behind them, there's tons of bodies behind them. But hey, they got the job done. Congratulations. Yay, I won. No one wants to work with me, but I won.
I think one reason why that doesn't resonate with a lot of engineers, like the attack mode, is because engineers typically like data, right? They want to know the why behind things. And a lot of times when people are just attack, 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 they don't present the why behind their attack. Like, why am I doing this heavy attack action oriented, drive to get this project done right now? Where's the data to back up these decisions? And I think that's part of why a lot of engineers have a harder time understanding that. And then the ones that do understand that attack mentality are like, yes, let's go. And so that's why I think, Jake has seen that 50-50 split. But if you are an attack type person, just if you can bring the important parts of the data and the why of what you're doing, that's when you'll get everyone else on board.
Yeah, because it's act, not attack. And so action is focused on, decision making, planning, acumen, strategy, vision, all of those technical, non-emotional components. And so you've got to have those to be successful in leadership. I mean, there's no way around that. And but you mentioned, Steve, what happens, about the why, like, how do I connect to this concept that you're telling me to do immediately, right? Mm-hmm. Well, that's where connect comes in play and connection comes in play. And so connection is, communication, emotional intelligence, public speaking, team building, relationship building, reading personalities. And so what is so unique?
Trust.
Which ultimately builds those things. And what you discovered is people that are connection focused, that are trying to build this confidence to get you to do all these things. We see other people in our industry that can't do that other half. They say, well, Kirby, I think this is a wonderful idea. And then they want you to do the idea because they have no idea how to do it. They have no idea how to execute it. And so there's a name for that, and that's called a con artist.
Explain.
Love it.
Because I'm conning you, Jake, into believing that I'm capable of delivering something, or conning you into doing something that I have no abilities to do. And so then ultimately what happens is Jake gets suckered into doing something that I conned him into doing. And then he feels like, well, why isn't Kirby helping me with this? It was his idea. I'm sitting here doing all the work. I don't trust this guy. He's not reliable. He's not dependable. He doesn't even know what he's doing. He's a freaking dentist.
You may not even know, right? that you're doing this to the other person.
Yeah, and right? So that's what's weird about the con artist. Like, the attacker is easy to spot. You can see those guys. They're a mile away. They're the bull in the china shop destroying everything.
Yes.
But the con artist is very hard to spot because they know you don't realize they're a con artist until 6 to 12 months later. And then by the time
they talk the good talk, right?
Yeah, and by the time that you figure
everybody
out
feels good,
it's too late.
Yeah. And you're like, shit, we're still in the same boat, but we are sinking.
Yeah, Kirby sounds great to talk with. I love going to the bar with him. He has no idea what he's doing, but at least he's fun to hang around with. He bought my beer yesterday.
Yeah, love that guy, but aren't we? I mean, engineering, like, are we supposed to be doing things?
I mean, I'd love to hear. I mean, have you guys run into a con artist in your career? Because it seems like we have a lot of attackers and con artists out there.
Steve, take it away, man. I'm sure you have. Well, you might even have been a con artist.
What are you talking about, Jake?
We found him. He's a con artist.
There might be a little family dynamic.
Yeah. I mean, if you wanted to break it into those two terms, that's basically Jake and I. I was I like to call it more influential, There you go. It's a kinder term. But yeah, I mean, as kids, I was the one manipulating the younger brothers, including Jake here, to do whatever I wish them to do. And Jake was ready to go and do it. So, and we're still that way, but in a much more cohesive manner these days.
Yeah. It's like, wait, hey, I know we want to go to the drag strip and we want to be the fastest one out there, but why am I the only one out here, like turning this wrench out here and like trying to put this thing back on? Like, I'm in the shop by myself and I go, what? Wait a second. Wait just a second.
That's what's so neat. And that is that you realize that when you look at those two things, like both of the, when you hear the name attacker and con artist, you're like, no, I want nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. And then you're sitting there thinking, oh, you have to do both at the same time. You can't do one. It doesn't work. And so that's where you go back to the impact math that the line attitude system was built on in that outer leadership, because the goal behind developing leadership skills, working with other people, you using the lion's attributes of courage, strength, bravery, leadership, and heart, like you realize, well, some of those are action attributes. Oh, wait, but others are connection. I have to use both at the same time. You know, I can't do one because one doesn't work. I'll either become an attacker or a con artist. And so that's,
you see it all the time.
And so you can see in the math, look at the math. If the A or the C is not there because you're only focusing on one, you can see the math doesn't work. You can't create the T. It doesn't work.
Where I've seen this show up a lot, like as just kind of a real world example, is if, you know, the person out front of you is just, I mean, there's just gold deposits everywhere, right? It's just for the taking. So they're out in front and you're carrying the cart. You're like, I'll carry all the gold. You know, I'm following behind you. And then the guy's just launching. Just, oh, there's more here. And it's just the wagon is overfilling and you go, hey, I can't carry anymore. And then they just bury them and the gold goes nowhere. And then the person trying to move that wagon is just dead in their tracks. And there's just like kind of what you were saying, just bodies everywhere. There's just gold everywhere. And they're like, okay, well, I mean, we got a lot. This is great. This is very valuable here, but we weren't able to do anything with it because you buried me. You know what I mean? So it's like making the sale and doing projects. So you want to make your sale and run it through your system and have it come out as a successful project, and then you make money. Great. But what happens when your hopper is just overflowing, right? And all these things, and the system isn't ready to produce the way you want it to. I've seen that happen a lot throughout my entire career, and at different levels too. It's not always just like, oh, we have too much work. It's just about, hey, I'm attacking, and you guys need to be fielding this. And why can't you just keep up with me? You know what I mean? So if you can attack plus or take that action and connect, right?
That's
then you
right.
realize this folly, what you're doing to your people, right? So
that's why, like, you realize like doing both together is important. That's what phase 3 of the line attitude system was built to do, was to show you, okay, you developed the inner leadership that is needed to be successful. Now let's apply that leadership working with other people. And that's where, like, the first step of it is, like, for example, courage. Like, you've developed this leadership and now it's got to be tested. It's got to be tested with something that you're afraid of, that you're not sure what's going to happen when you do it. And you got to be something that you're sincerely afraid of. And so what happens is, think about it. You apply that leadership, trying to develop courage, right? And doing something to develop that. And the reason why, like, you're doing it in a step-by-step linear fashion is because, like, at that stage, it's like saying, well, okay, well, Jake, you told me you want to run a marathon. Well, that's fantastic. I'm glad you want to do that. I've never seen you run 30 feet before, and you're telling me you want to run a marathon? How about you run the first mile? Let's see if you're serious about that. And then after you're capable of running the mile, then let's talk about how you can do the rest of these things.
I've absolutely done that in my career.
So
that's that place where you get to that you're like, oh shoot, now I got to do that. I've talked the talk. Now it's time to walk the walk.
Yeah, and so that's what the courage is helping you do is overcoming something that you are afraid of, and that's where it's time for you to be tested. Because if you're capable of meeting that head on, then you're capable, which that's action. Some of that's probably connection too, depending on the way you steer it. You're probably doing a little bit of both, but it's really more overall an action focused item. And then you think, oh man, this was amazing. I can't believe I was capable of doing this. So then that's where strength comes into play next. Because strength is now, well, man, now that I'm capable of doing this, the sky's the limit. I should go take the certified energy auditor exam because I didn't think I could become a professional engineer, right? And
Yep.
so now you're working to develop your skills, and that development of your skills in leadership, working with other people, makes you stronger and leads you to the midpoint where you're really focused on kind of a bridge between action and connection, because like those are action focused items, and that's where
Mhm.
bravery, the midpoint, is kind of a major journey, because like there is a difference between courage and bravery. So courage is something that you're afraid of, you're so afraid of, but you're still going to do it. And but also that there's not really as much risk involved. So, jumping out of the parachute, it's not really courageous. It's brave, because you have a chance of losing your life if you don't make the right decisions. And so bravery is the midpoint that shows you, okay, man, I've developed the confidence. I am not afraid anymore. I've grown myself and gotten stronger. Now I've got to see my burning building that is completely on fire, and I have to walk into it with no hesitation. Zero, because think about it. How many firefighters will come out of a building if they hesitate to walk into it? They will not. They'll make some
Right.
mistake, some careless error, and someone loses their life because they, did that. But there's a significant risk involved. So you're giving up something, you're sacrificing something very significant to get something very significant. And think about that, like Jake, if you did something of that caliber, you don't forget that. You when you walk out of a burning building, you feel differently,
Mm-hmm.
and then now you can take those action focused items and to start to develop connection with leadership and heart, which are, you know skills like, leading a project, leading a volunteer organization, like I did during my ASHRAE time, and still done leadership roles within ASHRAE. I volunteered for those roles because that gave me the ability to develop those leadership skills, and the only way I was going to do those things is if I put myself out there to do that. So,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can kind of see like half of those attributes that lions possess every day. Those are action focused, but yeah, they're also connection. So what do we think now that we walk through it all in depth?
I see like a very close correlation between just what we talked about right now is like doing hard stuff, right? There's always that you have that intent, that motivation, the purpose, and then you're doing that action. You're doing the hard stuff, like just getting in there. It's low risk, but it's tough, right? It's still kind of guided, but it's hard, right? And then as soon as you take those steps and you're building and stacking, and you know everything's small is slowly increasing to this big point of potential, and then you're going to make that connection, right? And then you're going to get yourself out there, do that volunteer work, lead in a volunteer setting where there's a team below you trying to make a result, an outcome, right? And you're ultimately at the top trying to make that happen with them. That's going to take a lot of bravery, right? So you're building yourself to become ready to take those opportunities when they arise. And so as you work your way through the impact formula, I see a lot of underpinning of just doing some hard stuff, right?
You're absolutely
What do
right.
you what do you think, Steve? What do you think? What do you think about the impact formula? Did it resonate with you? Like, is there any underpinning, like something that you think is very important?
I especially do like the what we talked about earlier, mixing the action, right, and the connection, because I think those are the two sides of the dichotomy that need to be in balance to be an effective leader. Without one, you're not going to be an effective leader at all. So that's the part that resonated the most with me, and which is why I understand why you brought it up as well, Jake. But I did want to ask a little bit more granular details of the book itself. So when is it coming out? Or approximately, and where would people be able to find it?
So I'm going to be self-publishing the book. I'm in the final stages of getting through to the proofread and all that stuff. So it has been beta read. I've got a lot of outstanding feedback. I actually had people, experts within our industry read it. I also had people outside the industry read it because I was curious about, well, you know, is there some outsider perspective about the system that, maybe someone sees that maybe us immersed in the weeds of what we do every day, maybe they see that we don't see, right? I felt like it was important to have a balance of that. I'm in the coming, probably the next 60 to 90 days is when it's going to be out, and it will be available on Amazon. Of course, you can buy a copy and all that stuff. But it's just been quite a journey. It's interesting looking back of like all the steps of what happened for me from 2019 to 2020. Like this is the system. This was the system that I built, and this was a sheer accident. This wasn't like me waking up and say, "Well, how am I going to be a billionaire today? This is it. I've got it." No, I've figured it out. So
Right.
it was a sheer accident doing that, and it was developing all of these steps and processes. I basically built my own system from scratch because what was around wasn't effective, and it's interesting because we can all look at it like from a technical perspective and say, well, there's no wonder it didn't work. There's the reason why.
Yeah.
That's what I think is so unique about what we're teaching. What I'm teaching as part of the book is its application. It shows you what to do. This isn't theory, and you can see what
Right.
success looks like. You can also see like what success doesn't look like and why where the weak point is and why it fails. I mean, the attacker and the con artist. I mean, everyone can look at that and say, well, Steve, I don't think that's my goal. I didn't think being a con artist was not my life's mission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in the final steps of the book after phase 3, because after you've learned the steps and shown that you can develop those attributes, then you're now applying those attributes in practice as part of targets that you're hunting every year. And that you're using this lion pride that you built along the way during these first 3 phases to support you as you're developing your leadership. Because lions are very unique animals. They only hang around other lions. They don't waste their time with other. They don't hang around the zebras. They don't hang around the chimps. That's not their thing. And isn't it really powerful when we think about this that the lion is one of the only rare animals that is an apex predator, has masterful strategy. It hunts at night. It can hunt down animals that can't even see them coming. They work in teams to take out targets that are 10 times their size, but yet they build strong bonds. They build relationships. They defend their territory. They protect each other. So the most social animal in the world is also the most lethal animal in the world. So, I mean, thoughts and feedback behind that.
That's what I see as a community, though.
Exactly.
That's what I think. That's what we're trying to build, Steve.
Yep.
For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. So where can our listeners follow you? I'm assuming the LinkedIn profile is one of your most active.
Yeah, LinkedIn is where I do most of my stuff right now. I may look at other avenues in the future, but yeah, I post. One of the things that I enjoy posting is specifically application content. Because, like, for example, like if I make a mistake, and I don't get into the weeds of names or any of that kind of stuff. I keep it really general, typically. But what I want to show people is application of, okay, Kirby failed today. Let's break that down, why that took place in a technical form, not just, hey, Kirby had a bad day and I have no idea why. So I think that's important, and also even showing success as an application, right? So you can show, show application of, okay, well, I had some recent changes, right? And okay, something happened to me, but I've got strong inner leadership, and I know why I'm doing this. So therefore, an application, if I'm applying myself with that system, I'm going to make it. I can't say that I'm super Napoleon Hill here from Think and Grow Rich and can tell you, oh yeah, this is exactly how it's going to play out. But I know that you develop enough faith in backing yourself, because that's where inner leadership, right, comes from, that you're like, well, yep, some circumstances happen. And, couldn't have seen that curveball coming, but I'm ready. I'm ready for what's next. I know things are going to work out for me. I can't say what's going to happen, right? For example, but I know it's going to go in my favor, and I'm backing myself 100%. And so that's where that's why like I enjoy showing that application of people that I've interacted with during my entire career. And I think it's really neat because like that's not theory. That's the real world. You can see what's actually happened and you can see why it worked or why it didn't work.
Yep. Yep. And with social media, it's very important to show the successes, sure, but also that everyone's a real person and that we all fail and that we should be sharing those things as well so that we don't create this delusional world that, is exclusive and means that only the rich or the successful or the people that have it all together are online, right? Because we're all not that, and we're all here, and so we can share our real experiences too, and an application based process of how to work through it, right? So.
Exactly, and that's what I think makes our what was built in the book and in the impact system. That's what makes it so different is that this isn't theory. This is the real world and shows you what to do, why it would be effective, and like I'm not a psychologist. I'm not here to write my 20-page dissertation about all of that stuff. Nobody cares.
Right. It's the real world. Yep. I think that's perfect. I think it ties into our, kind of our action oriented type of question. We're coming up on the end of our, gosh, it's already almost been an hour. Yeah. That's amazing. I have a question. Steve, you've got a question. I think we go action first, is what I'm feeling like. So,
go ahead.
I always ask every guest that comes on, what is the action that someone could take right now, tomorrow, to get headed towards, what we talked about or building their impact?
So the first thing I would say was stop right now, sit in a quiet room for about an hour by yourself and say, is my life going the way that I believed it was going to go? And if you can say yes to that, totally fine. And I would say 99% of the world will probably say no. And then, or any person that says yes to you is probably lying.
Sure.
And then
to themselves, yeah.
And then they sit there, look in the mirror, and say, "Well, what do I want my life to look like? Why am I doing this?" And then the next thing is, I would say, like if you're outer leadership focused, and you say, "Okay, my inner leadership is strong. I already know why I'm doing this, and I'm just trying to figure out how to be the best leader I can for other people," right? Because this is kind of a lion pride mentality. Because lions operate and build pride so that they all win together, right? The pride. It's interesting because when lions hunt animals and they take out, whatever their spoils are, they bring it back to the whole pride and they all eat. They don't just eat by themselves. And so if you're outer leadership focused, you're probably asking the question of, what can I do to balance the ability to act and connect at the same time to help my team win? What can I do? And most people in leadership roles don't do that. They just assume, okay, I'll just do all the jobs. These people will do the work for me and it'll all go good. They don't take that total responsibility of saying, I'm responsible as a leader for these people. And everything, their success is on me. It's not based on them. Well, it is based on them too, but it's also based on me. And so, so that's where I would say you got two components, the inner leadership question and the outer leadership question.
Nice. Yeah, I challenge everyone to immediately do that. Make it two. You're going to hear some stuff, and it's scary, and it'll challenge you, but lean into that. Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, and this will tie in really well with your impact formula. But what does it mean to you to be an impactful engineer?
Well, I would say that I sat there and look at my engineering career, and I look at why I kind of felt like I needed to walk away from it. And ultimately, I sit there and look at it, and I'd say like leadership was probably the reason why, was because I didn't have someone behind me saying, Kirby, do you even know why you're doing this? And then, okay, well, let's develop a system and a process so that you can do this. I actually, there was somebody that works for a rep firm that I remember, and I'll never forget the story, but that someone came to him that was a salesperson, and he was a sales manager, and he said, you know, I don't know that I want to work in HVAC sales. He says, I think I want to go be in the FBI. I want to go to Quantico and be an FBI agent. And I remember the sales manager, he told me, he said, well, he said, have you taken a physical test, fitness test? Because obviously there's specific physical process, fitness test levels that you have to meet be in the FBI, right? And he had never done a push-up his entire life. And so guess what that sales manager was doing every day, every morning? Push-ups. Is he says, first thing you're doing in the morning is we're doing 30 push-ups together. And then at lunch, we're going to be running together. And we're going to be doing this until you tell me that you have passed, until you have met all the physical requirements to be an FBI agent. And I'll never forget it, because that guy told him, I want to be an FBI agent. And all he said was, and this is something we would say as leaders, and I'm sure, Steve, you probably do this, is here's what it's going to take to do this. Are you willing to put in the work to do that? People that have purpose will do it. People that don't have purpose will tell you that they want to do it, and they really won't. And so that guy actually became an FBI agent. After, and he left. And it's interesting because that leader could have said, well, this guy doesn't want to do it, I'll just get rid of him. He didn't.
Yeah.
He said, what does it take to do that?
Yeah, and that's the mark of a true leader, right? Is even if it's not benefiting that organization, they knew that their direct report wanted to do something that would give them purpose, and so they supported that and helped them get to that realization. So,
and guess how well they did their job.
Exactly.
And how good they felt about it while that training was going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
I bet you they came with a lot of fire.
Yeah,
they came with a lot of fire. And but yeah, the guy put in all the work, and then he passed the fitness test and became an FBI agent.
I love that story. That's awesome.
So that one didn't make the book, by the way. So that one's kind of a unique little one.
There you go. You heard it first on the Impactful Engineer podcast.
There you go.
All right. There you go. Kirby, this was awesome. I love the formula. I'm definitely getting the book when it comes out. I'm sure there's going to be tons of stuff in there that I'm going to adopt, and it's going to give me some of the golden nuggets to take with me into my career for sure. So I really appreciate you getting on. I wish you the best of luck with your current endeavors. I know it's going to turn out great because you've got the system. And just thanks for being on the show, man.
Absolutely. I had a blast. I'm grateful for the time with you guys, and just looking forward to the next steps of the journey. But because of the system, I can sit there and say, I'm not worried about what's going to take place for me. I never worry about it because I know that I've got the system that's going to put me where I need to be. And, as Steve Harvey would say on a great speech, your gift makes room for you and puts you where you need to be and with the people you need to be.